sorry again. Today's lecture about Shakespeare, Shakespeare drama and poetry. We will concentrate mainly on Shakespearean drama. As you know, do you hear me, guys?
It's clear.
Okay. As you know, Shakespeare was in the Elizabethan time, in the Renaissance time, especially the Elizabethan time. So when we say Elizabethan drama, so Shakespeare is included. Clear, guys? So if we want to know what's the meaning of Elizabethan drama, or what is the reference of Elizabethan era or period, let's read to know something about that period. The simple definition of Elizabethan drama is that it is a drama written during the reign of Elizabeth I. So this is a reference to the Elizabeth I. But that is absurd simplistic. Elizabethan drama is much more than that. So it means its effects last more than Elizabethan drama at that time, and even it is affected by the period which preceded that period. Not only the period that followed, but also the period that preceded that era. Queen Elizabeth I of England and Ireland reigned from 1558 till 1603. During the time when the Europeans were starting to break out of the cultural constraints, cultural limits, cultural barriers, which are imposed by the medieval church. As we know, the medieval was the time of ignorance. At that time, the Islamic, as you know, the Islamic empire at that time was in the peak, في القمة. Okay, while Europe was at the time, they were in the time of ignorance. At that time, we have the church which controls the society. We have the time of the corruption of the church itself, and people try to compare the European culture at that time and the Islamic empire at that time. Okay, let's go back to the lecture. Great thinkers, it means great literary figures, great minds across Europe were courageously directing their eyes away from the church, okay, and turning them toward the mind. So they broke down the limits or the chains or the clutches of the church and turned them towards the mind, the science, the form and the ideas of human beings. When we say human beings, it means man in general, in a huge humanistic movement. So in Europe, when was the first humanistic movement? It was in the time of Renaissance. Okay, in Europe, the humanistic movement was first in the time of which period? The period of Renaissance, especially the Elizabethan period. And instead of just accepting the flat two-dimensional assumption about life. So at the time, there were only two sides of the human beings, okay? Two understanding of the human being, or two assumptions. Assumption, it means supposition. God, the planet, and universe itself that the church beheld. They were challenging those assumptions, and that led to the blossoming of a new perception in every area of a human endeavor. Endeavor, it means yearning for knowledge. Art, music, architecture, religion, science, philosophy, and literature. Artists, composers, scientists, and writers looked back beyond the darkness of 14th century. What do you mean by look beyond or go back? It means going back to the classical period. When we say classical period, who remember in the first lecture when we refer to the classical period, what do we mean by the classical period? Who knows?
العهد القديم. العهد القديم.
We have two periods, the Greek and the Roman. We call them the classical period. So those people in the time of the medieval, they look back, they want to revive Renaissance, make Renaissance to the classical period. Why? Because for them as a European, their peak of culture, their cultural peak was at the time of the Greek and Romans. So again, artists, composers, scientists, and writers looked back beyond the darkness of the 14 centuries and took their inspiration from the humanist quality in the Greco-Roman culture. Look again, in the Greco-Roman culture. This is a reference to what? To the classical period. Greco from Greek. Greco-Roman combination. Have you got the idea, guys? Clear? Is it clear, guys?
Yes, clear.
It's clear.
So here we have many main ideas. Number one, what is the time of ignorance in Europe? What do we call it? We call it the medieval time. What is the classical period? It's the Greco-Roman culture or the Greco-Roman period or era. Who can read? I want somebody to read. Yes, guys. بدي شخص يقرأ. يلا يا جماعة. طيب راح.
Okay, I'm ready.
مضر, would you like to read?
Yes,
slowly and clearly, okay? Don't speed up.
Yes.
Yeah, could you please start?
Yes. The Renaissance.
عصر النهضة.
Renaissance.
Renaissance.
The Renaissance.
Okay.
Florid
Say
right.
it. Okay. If you have a problem with the pronunciation of any word, say it many times. For example, Renaissance. And all of you, I want to read it without unmuting yourself. Say it 3 times. Renaissance, Renaissance, Renaissance. Again.
Renaissance. Renaissance.
No.
Renaissance.
Again. Renaissance.
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 Okay. Go on.
Yes. Florid right across Europe, but had different in phase. in the
Emphasis.
different emphasis in the different Europe.
But in the plural,
European.
emphasis. Okay.
Emphasis, yes. In the
European
different
culture.
European
Go on, يا
culture.
مضر.
Yes.
In different
was
European
religion.
cultures. Okay.
It was religion and philosophy in Germany. For example, art, architecture, architecture,
Architecture.
architecture, and sculpture in
Sculpture.
Italy.
Okay.
Sculpture.
Those
Yes.
are the shows or the ways how the Renaissance or what are the fields of Renaissance in the European countries. So the Renaissance in Germany was in philosophy, while in Italy was in architecture and sculpture. Okay? فن البناء والنحت. Okay. And in England,
And in England, it was drama.
so
All through the middle, yes,
go on.
all through the Middle Ages,
Ages.
English drama. Ages, English drama had been religious and
Had been
religious and didactic.
didactic,
Didactic.
educational, something
Yes.
teaches. By the way, when you pronounce the functional words, they have strong form and weak form. Have you studied that in phonetics?
Yes, yes.
So the strong form of being is being, while the
Ah,
weak
okay.
form of being is
Speaking.
ben,
White.
with schwa,
Yes.
ben. Okay? So
Okay.
drama had been religious and didactic. So drama in the Middle Ages was about religion and it was didactic. It means it is written in order to teach Christianity, to teach religion for those illiterate people. Have you get the idea?
Yes.
Yeah.
When Elizabeth came to the
Elizabeth.
throne, yes, go to the throne, most of the plate.
Not must.
Oh.
Must, it means يجب. Most.
Most
Uh,
of the place
just a
on
moment.
over
Are you following the American accent or the British accent?
British.
So you say most. If you are
Most,
American,
yeah.
you say most.
Most, yes.
So in British, in the British accent, it's most. Schwa with u. Okay, schwa
Yes.
with u. Most.
Most of the place on
You
over
are
to the
pronouncing
public.
it near. You are more. You are following the American accent more the British one. Go on.
Yes. To the public where
Miracles place.
miracle place.
Yeah, miracle. Miracle place.
Presenting in crude
Yes.
dialogue,
Dialogue.
stories from the Bible and lives of the saints
Sense. Yes.
and the moralities which taught lessons for the guidance of life through the means of allegorical.
Yes.
Allegorical.
Allegorical. You
Allegorical
say, yeah.
action.
Allegorical. It means symbolic. Okay, with a symbolic
Yes.
meaning. So, in the medieval, the plays were about religious teaching, But when Elizabeth came to the throne, it means came to throne, it became a queen. Okay, so they offer public plays. Okay, they were about maybe about the Bible and about the moralities. Okay, which taught lessons for the guidance. It means lessons for the guidance of the life, to guide people, to teach people through the means of allegorical action. It means in the symbolical ways. They were primarily drama about God, but not about people. But by the time of Elizabethan reign ended, there were more than 20 theaters in London. So theater at that time, like the television nowadays, or maybe the internet, so it spread. So people at night, when they want to amuse themselves, they go to theater. Day at work and night at theater. Okay, and at that time not all people were able to enter the theater. It was first for the aristocratic people, then we have public theaters. Okay, all turning over several plays a week. So many plays in a week, plays that were secular in their nature, secular about the human life. Okay, not about the life after. Okay, and about people. So it is unlike the medieval one that presented a complete revolution in theater. So they made a revolution in theater by changing it from religious matters to secular dunyawiyya, secular matters. Okay, what changed at that time was that the theater became a place where people went to see not dramatist lectures on good behavior, but reflection of their own spirits. Now it talks about the spirits of people, not didactic one only, and day-to-day interests, مصالح اليومية, day-to-day interests, اهتمامات، مصالح. They wanted to laugh and to cry. يعني بدهم يضحكوا، بدهم يسلوا نفسهم. To be moved، إنه يتم تحفيزهم. Not by divine reflection, but by human beings doing good and bad things, just as they did. So they don't want religious drama, religious plays about the saints, al-Qaddisin, something about the miracles and mu'jizat. No, they want to amuse themselves by seeing plays about a human being like themselves, doing mistakes, doing jokes. They want to be agitated. They want to amuse themselves. Okay, so this is one of the functions of the Elizabethan drama. Have you got the idea, guys? Clear? Hello? Do you hear me? Okay. Okay, as they did. For example, we have loving, murdering, stealing, cheating, acting sacrifically, getting into trouble and behaving nobly. In short, being a human like themselves. This new Elizabethan drama and theater attracted writers of a great caliber who thought of themselves simply as a craftsman, in the same way as a cooper and wheelwrights did, and not great writers as we think of them today. But even so, most of theater writers of Elizabethan England have not been equaled during 4 centuries since that time. In other words, there were very high level writer at that time, but they were not justified. They did not take their right. They were not considered a dramatist or the best writers at that time, because their society at that time did not evaluate them well. Clear guys? But even so,
Yes, it's clear.
but even so, most of literature of theater writer of Elizabethan England, sorry, okay, I think I am confused. Okay, there was a lot of money to be made feeding this huge appetites of what? And good playwrights who played their cards well. It means they make use of the opportunity. What do you mean they played their card well? This is a symbolic sentence. It means they took their chance and made good contacts. What do you mean contacts? Contacts
أسماء.
تواصلات، بما معناه نحن
محتوى.
نقول بالعامية واسطات.
ارتباطات.
Contacts, relationship, communication with the aristocratic people, with the rich people. Okay, هدول قال عرفوا يلعبوا رقم صح.
واسطة.
As Shakespeare did، كما فعل شكسبير. Became rich، وأصبح غنيا. كيف؟ راح نشوف. So when we look back at the Elizabethan drama from the 21st century, what do we see؟ قال وقت نطلع من وجهة نظر القرن ال21 شو راح نشوف؟ We see for the first time stage presentations of a human experience. So they show the human experience. We see acts of a great nobility by flawed heroes, a great themes of a Greek tragedy preferred by Shakespearean in such play like Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, and etc. In other words, nowadays the hero is an ordinary man. Okay, for example, you can see a film about for example like an everyday man, a normal man, not aristocratic or rich. But in the classical meaning at that time, the hero of the drama or the play or the theater should be noble, either a prince, a king, or god or demigod, like that. Okay, like Hamlet, Macbeth, and King Lear, all of them from the aristocratic people. So we should differentiate between the modern sense, the modern meaning of the drama, and the old or the Elizabethan time. Why? Because now they taking the everyday man as a noble, but at the Shakespearean time or the classical time, they concentrate only on the noble people as the characters, as the heroes. Okay? We see human beings at their meanest level. We see psychological studies of human characters, such as the psychopathic Iago in Othello. So at the time they concentrated on the psychological side. Okay, we see the exploitation of the deepest human emotions, showing the emotion of people, such as love in Romeo and Juliet, and Antony and Cleopatra. Although most of the plays of the period have an underlying Christian assumption because of the culture of the time in which they were written, uh, in which they were written. They were essentially humanist, in tune with the Renaissance spirit of the time. So when you concentrate on the psychological or the human side of the person, so you are a humanistic, and here we have a tendency or the movement of humanism. Elizabethan drama, because it is about people rather than God, this is one of the important feature, الخاصية المميزة الهامة of the Elizabethan drama, that it was about people more than God. It means about the secular life more than religious life. Have you got the idea? So this is an important characteristic, important feature of the Elizabethan drama. Again, modeled, it means formed on the Greek comedies. The humor is perfectly by the likes of Shakespeare's and Ben Jonson, with their memorable comic characters and their satirical هجائي look at their own time, as well as the light-hearted social comedies. Shakespeare's plays, in Shakespeare's plays, there is a humor, some kind of joke, some kind of amusement, humorous, something humorous. Again, in Shakespeare's plays, there were humor, even in the darkest plays, such as the frequent love in the frequent lines, the frequent love lines in Hamlet. By the way, when you see a word in italics, يعني شوفوا كلمة بالمائل, it means a title of a work. Okay, Hamlet هي مسرحية. Shakespeare more or less invented, it means find out, a form of drama that mixed all genres, لفظة genres, ما genres, so that this tragedy contain a comic elements. It contains comedy, his comedies tragic elements, and his stories both contain both. So we have comedies, tragedies, sometimes combine the tragedies and comedies elements in one work, and we have a type of histories. So if you want to divide the works of Shakespeare, we have tragedies, comedies, and histories, and every type, every genre has its own feature. We will read next about those features. In Shakespeare's case, the winds of Renaissance gave him the freedom to reflect all the aspects of human beings. So Shakespeare was affected by humanistic movement in his plays, and he wrote plays that haven't only lasted for 400 years. كتب ليس فقط كتب مسرحيات استمرت ل 400 سنة, but which have very rarely, if at all, been butchered during the time. Toward the end of Elizabethan reign, playwrights were developing a new themes and techniques. So they are developing, they are inventing, because at the time it was the time of science, time of invention, time of exception. Okay, they broke the rules of the medieval and tried to invent something new, which led to the distinctive Jacobean theater. We have Elizabethan and Jacobean, okay, which is a prolonging or extending of the Renaissance time. The Jacobean theater, with its more courtesy, الرزانة, violent plays المسرحيات العنيفة that focused on a human being's capacity, the ability of a human beings for selfishness. Dramatists or dramatized in deep representation of ambitions and its effects. Now, this is very important now. Here is the core of our lecture. هذا المهم بمحاضرتنا أكثر شيء, because all of Shakespearean works are classified or applied to these features. Let's let's read something about Shakespeare first, then we will go to the features of his of his works. The main characteristics of Shakespearean plays, الخاصيات الأساسية أو المميز الرئيسية لمسرحيات شكسبير اللي هن الكوميديز, التراجيديز والهيستوريز. إذا هن 3 أنواع. How many types of Shakespearean plays? Comedies, tragedies and histories. Comedies يعني بتحكي إنه فيها ضحك وتسلية. Tragedy نهايتها مأساوية. الهيستوري اللي بتأرخ هي الغاية منها التأريخ والحياة عن حياة الملوك, الكلام عن الحياة أو الكتابة عن حياة الملوك. طيب, The Plays of William Shakespeare. احفظوا لي كتابة شكسبير, تمام, ولفظة كمان. William Shakespeare, who was born in 1564 and died in 1616, is considered to be the greatest writer in England in English literature. He composed over than 150 sonnets. Sonetta اللي هي قصيدة شعرية, sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet, and wrote some of the most famous plays in English language. His plays are generally characterized as comedies, tragedies, and histories. There is some debates about which categories some of a plays should be included in, as there are often a crossover between the genres. So, the plays did he write? So, which plays did he write, and what are the features of different genres? قال في بعض المسرحيات ما عرفوا يصنفوها لأنه في عندك تداخل بين الصفتين. هل هي تراجيديا ولا مأساة ولا مزج بين التنتين ولا هل هي تاريخية؟ طيب, لازم نعرف خاصية مسرح شكسبير من خلال إعطاء صفات لكل نوع.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry because I am not participating today, but the internet is so bad.
Don't worry. But
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. I prefer my students to participate in the lecture in order not to forget the ideas. Okay. So again, guys.
Okay.
We reached to the comedies. Try to pay attention and keep by heart and concentrate on those ideas because they are very important. We will talk first about the features of Shakespearean comedy. As we know, comedy is not necessarily I think we have reached here. Am I right? Comedy is not necessarily what a modern audience would accept a comedy to be. So it's not like the comedy, or it's not necessarily about or like the comedy nowadays. Whilst there may be some of the funny moments, Shakespearean comedy may involve some very dramatic storyline. Usually, what defines a Shakespearean play as a comedy is that it has a happy ending. So what is the first characteristic? It has a happy ending, often involving in a marriage. إذا راح أحكيها بالعربي إنه قال أهم ما يميز الكوميدي تبع شكسبير إنه هي فيها نهاية سعيدة وغالبا فيها زواج. The main characteristic in Shakespearean comedies are هن ملخصة في التالي. هي الصفات تبع الكوميدي لشكسبير بكل أعماله. There is a struggle or a struggle of a young lovers. في عنا two lovers، عنا دايما شخصين بحبوا بعض. في صراع. A struggle صراع of young lovers لحبيبين to overcome problems ليتغلبوا على المشاكل. Often the result of the interference of their elders. دائما آبائهم أو الأشخاص الأكبر منهم بعانوا، طبعا هو الشخصين محبين بعانوا من تدخل الأكبر منهم بكل الكوميديا تبع شكسبير. There is some
أستاذ مثل قصة تاجر البندقية يلي كانت فيها ابنة شايلوك بتحب رجل مسيحي ولكن أبوها كان معترض.
تماما.
هاي الفكرة يمكن أعتقد بتلائم هي هذا الشيء.
تمام، منطبق عليه. حتى الشخصية البورشيا كمان هي رهينة الأحجية اللي حطها والدها، فدائما في تدخل الإيردرز. تمام، يلا. There is sometimes elements of separation and unification. دائما في افتراق واتحاد، بيبتعدوا عن بعض وبرجعوا بيتحدوا، سواء الأصدقاء سواء الأحبة. We have a mistaken identities often involving a disguise. في عنا الشخصية ياخدين الناس فكرة عنا غلط. تمام، often involving disguise، وبتتضمن الشخصيات القناع. دائما ميزة القناع موجودة بمسرحيات شكسبير الكوميديز. We have a clever servant. خادم ذكي. بكل الكوميديز تبع شكسبير بنلاقي انه الخادم يكون ذكي. Family tensions، في عندك توترات عائلية that are usually resolved in the end، اللي بتنحل بنهاية المسرحية. complex interwoven plot lines، حبكة معقدة محبوكة، interwoven محبوكة، أو خطوط حبكة محبوكة بشكل معقد. دائما الحبكات تبع شكسبير بتلاقوا بالمسرحية أكثر من بلوت، أكثر من حبكة، more than a dramatic line. We have frequent use of puns، استخدام كثير للتورية. تمام، and other styles of comedy، والأساليب الأخرى للمسرحية. Shakespearean plays which are usually classed as comedies. أبرز أعمال شكسبير اللي مصنفة ككوميدي كملهى: The Merchant of Venice، Twelfth Night، All is Well That Ends Well، The Tempest، The Taming of the Shrew، The Winter's Tale، As You Like It، The Comedy of Errors، Love's Labor Lost، Midsummer's Night's Dream، The Two Gentlemen of Verona، The Merry Wives of Windsor، Measure for Measure، Much Ado About Nothing، Pericles، Prince of Tyre and the Two Noble Kinsmen. All of these are comedies. أعمال شكسبير هدول العناوين كلها هي كوميديا. طيب what about the Shakespeare؟
ممكن سؤال؟
Yeah, you can.
كيف قصة تاجر البندقية تندرج تحت إطار الكوميديا؟ هي كان فيها كثير نوع من المعاناة.
اوكي طيب رح احكي بالعربي هلا. انت لو شوي منتبه قبل، لاحظي ايش عم بقول هون. there is some debate، هنالك بعض الإشكالية about which category، أي التصنيفات، some of the plays التي تندرج تحتها لبعض المسرحيات should be included، التي يجب أن تتضمن in as a theater are often cross over between the genres. عبقولوا انه هنالك بعض there is some of debate or some debate، هنالك بعض الإشكالية، بعض نقاش about which category، أي التصنيفات. يعني هاي المسرحية إيش بتصنف؟ هل هي كوميديا ولا تراجيديا؟ قال ليش؟ because it is included as a theater a crossover، فيها مرور between the genres، ما بين الأنواع الأدبية. مثلا The Merchant of Venice هي كوميديا لأنه بتنتهي بسعادة بالنسبة لبسانيو وبورشيا، مو هيك؟ ولكن هي تراجيديا للقارئ اليهودي اللي بيتعاطف مع شايلوك، لأنه شايلوك نهايته حزينة، صح؟
صحيح.
ففي عنا هون مزيجين. فهل هي تراجيديا ولا كوميديا؟ لو انه نحن عم نفكر بعقل الانسان اليهودي اللي شفناه انه تراجيديا. تمام.
صحيح، لأنه بالقصة شايلوك هو اللي انظلم بالنهاية.
حسب كل انسان بيشوف، كل واحد عنده مبرراته حسب الناقد. دائما لازم الانسان يكون objective يعني موضوعي، but unfortunately everyone is subjective. This is the truth. Let's go back to our tragedies. Now, the tragedies may involve a comedic moment. يعني حتى التراجيديا المأساة بتتضمن بعض العناصر المأساوية، مثل ما كانت الكوميديا بتتضمن بعض العناصر التراجيدية. تمام؟ يعني في عنا نوع من المزيج. قال tragedies may involve يمكن أن تتضمن comedic moments لحظات كوميدية، لحظات ملهاوية أو تسلية. but tend towards ولكن تتجه إلى باتجاه أو تنوي يعني نيتها بالاتجاه more serious، بتصير أكثر حدة أكثر خطورة. dramatic plot يعني بتصير أكثر جدية وحبكتها بتدور أكثر درامية. with an ending بنهاية that involves the death of the main character تتضمن موت الشخصية الرئيسية. إذا بهي الأمر شكسبير كان عم يتبع التقليد الكلاسيكي. التقليد الكلاسيكي بالنسبة للتراجيديا قال لازم تنتهي بموت البطل. ما هو بالتراجيديا مثل هالأيام. التراجيديا in the modern sense it is not necessarily to end with the death of the main character, but in the classical time no, it's necessary to be or to end with the death of the main character. يعني لازم يموت البطل بالمعنى الكلاسيكي بالتقليد الإغريقي والروماني، بينما المعنى الحديث قال ما هو شرط. clear guys؟ انتوا معي يا طلاب؟ okay. I'll read again. Shakespearean tragedy. تمام. Shakespearean tragedies may involve comedic moments but tend towards more serious dramatic plots with an end that involves the death of the main character. The main feature of Shakespearean tragedies are that احفظوا لي اياها كتير, keep them by heart. The characters become isolated, بصيروا معزولين, بعيشوا بعزلة. Or there is a social breakdown, في عنا كسر اجتماعي, عزلة اجتماعية. وأحد صفات التراجيديا أو المأساة عند شكسبير end in death, تنتهي بالموت. ما هو مثل المعنى أو التراجيديا في العصر الحديث اللي بتنتهي فقط في خلينا نقول بس بحزن, لا, بتنتهي بموت. Okay? There is a sense that events are inevitable and inescapable. إنه الأمور حتمية ولا مفر منها. مثل أوديبوس the king. كلياتكم تعرفوا قصة أوديب, أو بعلم النفس حكوا عن عقدة أوديب, الملك أوديب, تعرفوه؟ هذا قال قدره محتوم. تقول التنبؤات that he will kill his father and he will marry his mother, and when he knows that prophecy he escape from his father and mother, but unfortunately they were not his real father and mother, and he went to his real father and mother and killed the king who is his real father and married the wife of that king which is his real mother. So in the classical term or in the classical meaning, everything is inevitable, كل شيء حتمي and inescapable ولا مفر منه. Have you got the idea? طيب. Another thing, there is usually a central figure, شخصية مركزية. figure بمعنى شخصية، شخص مهم. تمام؟ figure إلى كذا معنى. إذا بالكتاب figure بمعنى مصور. انظر إلى ذلك المصور. تمام؟ chart. But it refers to an important person, figure, person, who is noble, شخصية نبيلة. But with the character flaw, له زلة الشخصية. إيش the character flaw؟ سقطة الشخصية. هو منطبق بس ولكن له ذلة، له سقطة. Which leads them towards their eventual downfall. والتي تؤدي بهم إلى سقطتهم، إلى يعني مقتلهم، إلى نهايتهم الحتمية eventual. تمام؟ For example, in Antony and Cleopatra, Antony is in love with Cleopatra. So he is noble. And for them, when you go to Egyptian queen, you go to an inferior position. Okay? And he make a quarrel with I forget the antagonist at that time. I forget the idea. So we have a breakdown or a flow of the character of Antony, make him isolated from the Roman Julius Caesar. Yes, the figure, the antagonist is Julius Caesar. And it ends with Antony kills himself or is killed. So I'll repeat the final idea. There is usually a central figure who is noble but with a character flaw which leads them towards their eventual downfall. The plays which are generally classed as Shakespearean tragedies are إذن أعمال شكسبير اللي صنفت كتراجيدي اللي هي ماكبث، هاملت، روميو and Juliet، تيتوس أندرونيكوس، Julius Caesar or Julius Caesar، Troilus and Cressida، Othello، Coriolanus، King Lear، Antony and Cleopatra، Timon of Athens and Cymbeline. All of these works are considered tragedy. Now about the histories. Okay, what are the histories? The histories, it means works that wrote about historical events. Let's read about Shakespeare. Who can read the final paragraph? منو بده يقرأ لنا الفقرة الأخيرة؟ بدنا غير مضار. يلا. يلا يا شباب. طيب راح اختار أنا.
I can read.
Who would like to read?
I can read.
رفعة.
I can read.
طيب لحظة يا رفعة.
Yes.
غيداء. Are you ready
No.
to read? غيداء, are you ready to read? What about زهرة عبد الرزاق? Would you like to read يا زهرة؟
لا أنا خبرتك إنه أنا بدي شارك ولكن الإنترنت عندي كتير بطيء، يعني نص كلامك شيء عم بسمعه شيء لا.
يلا حقق علينا معناته. يلا معك عذر هلا.
لا ولا يهمك. don't care.
يلا اوكي. What about فاطمة الحمود؟ فاطمة الحمود. Are you ready to read يا
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. Would you like to try؟
أستاذ أنا مدور.
تحبي تحاولي؟ معلش.
نعم أستاذ يلا.
يلا
شكسبير ستوريز.
ولو طلع صوت الأولاد معلش، صوتهم بركة.
هو مشان ما بحس إني شاركة.
يلا اقرأي ولو كان جملتين. المهم سمعونا أصواتكم. يلا.
تمام أستاذ. Shakespeare's histories focus on English monarchs. They usually play upon Elizabethan propaganda, showing the dangers of civil war and glorifying the Queen's
Tudor ancestors. يعني
Tudor ancestors.
خلفاء تيودور. اوكي enough يا فاطمة. enough. ما شاء الله الاكسنت تبعك جيدة، قراءتك جيدة. اذا لاحظوا رح احكيها بالعربي، رح احكيها بالانجليزي بعدين احكيها بالعربي. Look, even at that time the poets and the dramatists or the poet laureates at that time or the king's men, the people who are close to the king, they always glorifying يمجدون the king, and they showing people that if you make a revolution, they call it civil war, انه اذا قمتوا بحرب اهليه يعني قمتوا ضد الملك it's very dangerous، يعني لا تقوموا ضد الملك. هذول مسميهم بالعصر الحديث شبيحه. تمام. فبتلاقوا الشاعر او المسرحي بهذاك الوقت المقرب للملك دائما عم بيمجد بالملك. شوفوا ايش عم بيقولوا. اذا دائما بيتبعوا البروباغندا showing the dangers of civil war، فرجوك مخاطر السيفل وور الحرب الاهليه، يعني انه الثورات بما معناه مسمينها حرب اهليه. and glorifying the queen's Tudor ancestors. اذا وبيمجدوا باسلاف الملك بغض النظر عن تيودور. تمام. طبعا هي اكثر اعمال شكسبير بتندرج تحت هذا الصنف. why؟ because Shakespeare at that time was close to the king, because he was of the king's men. في كان مجموعة اسمها مجموعة رجال الملك، فهو محسوب على أتباع الملك شكسبير، فهذا كان أحد أسباب شهرته، أو قد يكون كان مشهور فالملك قربه بسبب نجاحه بأعماله. أوكي يلا next. رفعة I think رفعة would like to read. would like yes. كل واحد يقرأ جملتين أو جملة، إذا كانت طويلة جملة واحدة لعند أقرب نقطة وقفي. يلا.
The direction of monarchs including Richard the third.
أيوة.
كيف
ريتشارد الثالث. أيوة.
and it's an enemy of the Tudors.
And Tudors.
Henry.
وقت بتشوفوا كلمة اسم just a moment. When you see a name, a family name, and it ends with S, it refers to the family. Tudors يعني أبناء تيودور. تمام. بتشوفوا S لكلمة تيودور، يعني هذا الملك ريتشارد الثالث اللي هو كان أعداء تيودور. And Henry the fourth.
And Henry for one of the great Theodore.
نعم. أيوة. monarchs يعني أصحاب البلاط أو أصحاب الملك. that have been influential، كان شخص مؤثر in creating a perception، في إنشاء الإدراك أو الفهم of these kings، عن هؤلاء الملوك، which has persisted through the centuries. Many of the historians، العديد من المؤرخين، point to an inaccurate in the depictions. Inaccuracies يعني عدم الدقة. accuracy الدقة. inaccuracy عدم الدقة. in depictions بالتصويرات، بعملية التصوير، النقل، الوصف. But the plays have been very powerful in presenting a particular image which it is hard for many people to see the past. طبعا من هاي الأعمال هي أعمال شكسبير التاريخية. تمام. طبعا في عنا يقال the plays Crolonius, Julius Caesar and Antony Cleopatra are classified both tragedies and histories. هدول العملين كرولونيوس ويوليوس سيزر وأنتوني كليوباترا هدول يصنفوا تراجيديا وأعمال تاريخية. We finished today as an introduction to Shakespearean drama or Shakespeare's plays and even poetry. We will talk about that later. We will concentrate on the drama mainly. I think we have finished. Do you have any question, guys? Clear, guys?
Yes, thank you.
Do you have any question?
استاذي هلا بالنسبه للمحاضرات.
ايه تفضلوا.
تمام. بالنسبه للمحاضرات عم ينزلوا على التليجرام.
بعته للاعلامي فكان في مشكله بالتنسيق، فاتفقت معه انه يبعث لي جزء اساعده انا، وفي طلع في غرفه للتليجرام للمحاضرات رح نزله مباشر عليهم بالاضافه لليوتيوب. تمام. اليوتيوب رح يكون عن طريق الدكتور غياث رئيس أمناء الجامعة أو الأستاذ مصطفى الإعلامي. بينما على غرفة التليجرام راح تكون عن طريقي. ماشي يا جماعة؟
عندي شبكة.
نعم. تمام.
معذرة فصلت عندي الشبكة والله، وأنا عم أقرأ فصلت عندي الشبكة.
يلا ولا يهمك ولا يهمك، الله يبارك فيك يا رب. الطلاب راح أبعث لكم نص، طبعا ما حددت لكم، على الأغلب راح أعطيكم أنتوني أند كليوباترا ك مسرحية، أو قد أختار لكم مسرحية تانية. ما حددت إلى الآن. عندي 3 خيارات: أنتوني أند كليوباترا، وفي عنا أوثيلو، وفي عنا اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. من توا كنت متذكر الخيار نسيته على كلهم. بكل الأحوال راح ابعث لكم النص. بتمنى تقرأوا كتير. كل ما قرأت أكتر راح يصير عندك vocabularies أكتر وراح يتحسن مستواك، وهذا الأمر راح ينعكس عليكم بكرة إن شاء الله بميدان العمل. إذا عندكم أي سؤال لا تترددوا. راح شوف الغرفة هي إذا تنظمت معي كما يجب، غرفة التليجرام راح ابعث لكم الرابط عليها، وانزل المحاضرات والمحاضرات الفيديو والنصية راح ابعث لكم اياهم كلياتهم ان شاء الله.
تمام. الله يعطيك العافية استاذ. حياك
الله يعافيك. يلا see you later ان شاء الله. goodbye.
Goodbye.